There are over a dozen snail and slug types in the United States, but this is the one that really hits the farmer. Deroceras reticulatum, the gray field slug. It is only an inch or two long, but you could have 500,000 per acre, and if you do, you've got trouble. In a heavily infested field, slugs can devour several tons of your precious crop in just 1 month. This is where it all starts, in small clusters of tiny eggs. Even the most conservative estimate says that every slug will lay 100 eggs in its 2 years of life, and an infested field might have as many as 500,000 slugs per acre. And that really does mean every slug, because they are hermaphrodites. Autumn through early spring is the most active time for egg laying. Although if the weather is reasonable, they will be laid throughout the year in moist, deep cracks in the soil. After it has laid its eggs, the adult slug moves on and it's every slug for itself. If the conditions are temperate, these eggs could hatch in 2 to 3 weeks. But in cold weather, it could take as long as 2 months. When they hatch, the surrounding soil must be damp with a moisture content between 60 and 80%. But during incubation, they can survive up to an 80% water loss. This egg doesn't look as though it's going to make it. It's just too hot and dry. But for every egg that doesn't survive, there are hundreds that do. At first, the tiny things browse on algae. This keeps them going for a while, but it's not long before they're off in search of a more filling meal, like your crop. This youngster may have bitten off more than it could chew. But what about this one cashing in on a grain of wheat? Because it can't burrow down into the earth for protection and moisture, the slug appreciates the modern farmer's tendency to adopt minimal cultivation techniques, which provide plenty of safe nooks and crannies below the surface. When foraging for food, a slug might travel as much as 30 feet in one night, moving by peristaltic muscle contractions over a lubricating slime trail, which is secreted from the pineal gland. It's a style of locomotion that makes it virtually unstoppable in its search for food. This slug is about to tackle some young seedlings, the stage when this crop is at its most vulnerable. Take a closer look at its mouth. It's only got one jaw shaped like a saw, and down below instead of a lower jaw, there's a radula. It's like a rasp and it combines the functions of lower jaw, tongue, and teeth. Magnified 10,000 times, this is what the surface of the radula looks like rows of shark teeth. The teeth point backwards into the mouth, making it a very efficient destroyer of crops. There's usually time for 2 foraging trips between dusk and dawn. The slug fills up with food in the early evening and then slides off somewhere safe to digest it. Just before dawn, it comes out again to find more food, so that it can fill up before going back to rest during the day. Foggy mornings and low intensity of sunlight allow the slug's time to continue to feast throughout the day. Finding its way back home isn't a problem. A slug's sense of smell is advanced, 10 times that of a canine. Those little black specks at the end of the upper antennae are the eyes, but they're only used to tell light from dark. Halfway down on the right-hand side, there's a hole for breathing. It's called a pneumostome, and it opens directly into the mouth. It looks like a delicate little thing, but don't let that fool you. The gray field slug is a cold-blooded creature that can survive and thrive in very tough conditions. Now for the strangest part of the slug story, its reproductive life. It begins in the conventional manner with the search for a partner. And for a slug, that means taking it to the slime trail, where it can pick up all sorts of interesting information. Pheromones indicate a mature slug is nearby and even which way it is traveling. When they meet up, they circle for a while, nose to tail, sizing each other up. The thing to remember is that slugs are hermaphrodites, so what happens is a cross-fertilization rather than a normal copulation. From the genital pore at the side of the head, there's a cone-shaped protrusion called a sarcobellum. It's a tickling stick used to stimulate the partner. This sort of thing goes on for some time, and then at the height of the excitement, there's a sort of explosion in which both partners evert the whole of their genitalia and bring them into alignment with each other. Now, the spermatophores or sperm sacs are exchanged so that each partner's eggs can be fertilized. There is new egg laying going on all the time, and that brings us right back to where we started. More slugs and more trouble for farmers. We know that perennial crops are encouraging the buildup of slugs and that no-till plantings are also vulnerable. So what can be done? The occasional goose or duck may stop a few, and the carabid beetle will do its part. But neither the carabid beetle nor the goose will be as reliable and effective as baits or sprays. The effectiveness of slug and snail baits have been proven again and again. If good baiting practices are followed, slugs and snails can be stopped, and ORCAL can show you how. Not all baits are created equal, and independent studies have shown that ORCAL baits outperform the competition. Snail and slug baits are where we got our start, and no one does it better. Our powerful attractants will have slugs and snails in a feeding frenzy. Our products are manufactured in the U.S. and can be shipped quickly. Call 541-689-4413 today or visit orcalinc.com to learn more.